Welcome to episode 2 of our brand new Bible series titled Through the Fire. If you missed episode 1, it is not too late to go back and check that episode out. So, right now we are talking about trusting through the fire, and we're specifically looking at Noah's story. So, in part 1, we learned that Noah continued to trust God even when it didn't make earthly sense. Noah continued and was faithful of building the ark even when there was no signs of rain, and he had never even known or heard of rain before the floods came. So we have to be just like Noah. We have to be faithful. We have to be righteous, even though, just like Noah, we are all surrounded by wickedness. We are all surrounded by flames. We have to keep trusting, even when it doesn't make earthly sense. So today we're going to continue Noah's story, and we're going to talk about how did Noah trust God when it took longer than expected. So this is for me. I hope this is for you, because a lot of times we like to put God on our timeline instead of following God's timeline and trusting that God's timeline is the best timeline for us. We have to trust God even when it takes longer than expected. So we're going to hop in today on how Noah trusted God when it took longer than expected. So turn with me to Genesis chapter 7, and we are going to start at verse number 6. Remember, grab those Bibles. We are reading it for ourselves. So, Genesis chapter 7, verse 6 says, "And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth." So, we think about that in today's time, and 600 years old sounds really, really old to us, right? And it is a long time to be alive. But during these times, these people would live very, very long lives. So, Noah particularly died at 950 years old. So, if we think about the lifespan for us, that would be about a 60-year-old man. So that just puts it into perspective a little bit. So as we continue through verses 7 through 9, that is telling us that every animal that was commanded went into the ark. So remember, that's Noah and his family. That is the clean beast by sevens and the unclean beast by twos. So all of them that were commanded went into the ark. And if we look at verse number 10, and it came to pass after 7 days. So after 7 days of them going into the ark, the waters of the flood were upon the earth. So if we think about it, God told Noah that it would rain for 40 days and 40 nights. So we're going to be talking about some timelines today, and we're going to really dig into how long was Noah waiting before he left the ark. So we see there that even when they went into the ark, they still waited 7 days before the rain even started. So as we look from verse 10 to verse 24, we see extra information about them going onto the ark, what's happening in the floods. And then we get to verse 24, and it says, "And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days." I thought we was talking about 40 days and 40 nights. I know if I was Noah, I would have been like, hold on, God, I done already waited 7 days before it rained. Now you're talking about 150 days? Right. So this is showing that Noah trusted even when it took longer than expected. But this is not even the good part. So God told Noah it would rain for 40 days and 40 nights, but God did not tell Noah how long he'd be in the ark. But Noah trusted that what God started, he would complete. And he trusted that in due time, he would make it out of the ark because God told him that he would not destroy him. Noah trusted God so much that he didn't care how long he was in that ark. He knew that God was protecting him the whole way. And we have to have that same trust in God, that what God said will come to pass, it will come to pass. Even if it doesn't come to pass when we think it should, if God said it, it will happen. So let's continue through chapter 8, because we're going to see what trusting the process really looks like. And if anybody trusted the process, it was Noah. So if we see in verse number 1, "And God remembered Noah and every living thing." So even when it seems like it's taking longer than expected, we have to remember that God is remembering us. Just as God remembered Noah and Noah trusted that God remembered him, we have to trust that even when it seems like God is distant, even when it feels like God is not there, we have to remember that God remembers us. We are his people. We are called according to his purpose, and he remembers us. And that is something that we have to hold on to, that God remembers us. Then if we continue on to verse number 2, we see the fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from the heaven was restrained. So we hear about that 40 days and 40 nights that it was supposed to rain. Okay, the rain stopped, right? Come on, Noah, let's get off the ark. No, no. Noah did not get off the ark until he was commanded to do so. So let's truly look at how long Noah waited before the waters and the rain stopped from when he left the ark. So let's look at verse number 3. And the waters returned from off the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. And abated just means they were lower in intensity, right? But still, Noah is still on this ark. And then we move on to verse number 4. And the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. So now the ark has stopped on this mountain. So Noah's no longer moving on this ark. The ark has stopped, right? This means it's time to get off. No, Noah still stayed. Let's look at verse number 5. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, were the tops of mountains seen. So now Noah's still waiting. The water is decreasing, and now we can see tops of mountains. Noah still cannot leave the ark. So now, if we look at verse number 6, and it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. Remember, we talked about doing exactly the blueprint that God has for our lives. Nothing more, nothing less. If Noah would not have followed that blueprint and made the window, he would not be able to do these things that are going to help him to signify if it is ready for him to leave the ark. So this is very important for us to remember. We have to do all that God commands us to do, not just what we feel like and not just what we want to. So then what did he do at this window? He sent forth a raven, which went forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from off the earth. So the raven goes out, the raven does not return. Noah still waited. Also, he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her foot, and she returned unto him into the ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. Then he put forth his hand and took her and pulled her in unto him into the ark. So he sends out the dove. The dove comes back because the water is still covering the earth, right? So now the dove has nowhere to plant his feet. So now let's look at verse number 10. And he stayed. And he stayed. That is something that we have to register. Even when it's taken longer than expected, we have to stay still. We have to wait for God's timing. And he stayed yet other 7 days. And again, he sent forth the dove out of the ark. So he sends the dove again. And the dove came into him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. So the dove went out. It came back with some sort of olive branch, which means there's some sort of vegetation on the earth. And that means that those waters have decreased. Time to get off the ark, right? No, verse number 12. And he stayed yet other 7 days and sent forth the dove, which returned not again unto him any more. In verse 13, and it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the month, the waters were dried up from off the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked. And behold, the face of the ground was dry. It's time to if it's not a time now, it's time to get off the ark right now, right? He took the covering off the ark. He looks out. It's good. Noah still stayed on the ark until God commanded him to do so. Verse 14, and in the 2nd month, on the 7th and 20th day of the month, was the earth dried. And God spake unto Noah, saying, Go forth of the ark, thou, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. So from the beginning of the flood until God commanded him to come out was 371 days. Like Noah, you may have expected it to be 40 days and 40 nights, but it takes 371. So will you be like Noah and trust God's words and his timing? Trusting that what God has promised you will come to pass. If Noah would have stopped trusting God before he told him to leave the ark, he could have forfeited his blessings. If he would have opened the door before he was commanded, he could have flooded everything in the ark and missed out on all of his blessings. Don't forfeit your blessings, y'all. You have been waiting and you have been faithful, and you may be on your 370th day, y'all. And I don't want y'all to forfeit your blessings. Continue to be faithful. Continue to trust God, even when it's taking longer than expected. Keep building, keep trusting, right? Because what God says is going to come to pass will come to pass. God just wants to see if you will continue to trust Him through the fire. This is what guided me to name this through the fire and not in the fire, because we will make it through the fire, right? Even if it's taking longer than expected, even if you expected to be out of the fire last year and you're still in the fire, trust, trust that God's word will come to pass. You could be on your 370th day, and I don't want you to give up. When you have one more day left, you have one more week left, you have one more year left until everything that God has promised you is going to come to pass. Don't give up. Keep trusting in God. The last thing we're going to talk about in verse 20, the first thing Noah did when he left the ark was build an altar and give God sacrifices. This shows Noah's gratitude and his worship for God. When you make it through the fire, because you will make it through the fire, I promise you will make it through the fire. You need to show God your gratitude and you need to worship Him. I'm telling you right now, you will make it through the fire. Keep trusting through the fire. And after you do, give God praise and give God worship and give God your gratitude for keeping you through the fire. So after that, God smelled the sweet, savory smell. And in verse 21, it is written, the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground anymore for man's sake. Neither will I again smite anymore everything living as I have done. Our trust will affect more than just us. Noah being righteous, Noah being faithful, Noah continuing to build the ark, Noah trusting God when it made no earthly sense, Noah trusting the waiting period, Noah trusting even though it took longer than expected. It helped more than just him. It blessed more than just him. You being faithful is going to bless more than just you. We have to remember that this is about more than just us. So then if we look at chapter 9, let's look at some of the blessings that Noah received. In verse 1, he was blessed with sons, be fruitful and multiply. So this was a renewal of humanity. In verse 2 and 3, he was blessed with dominion over animals. So that's food provision. Verses 8 through 17, that's God telling us about his covenant. That's the rainbow. He will not destroy the earth with the flood again. So because Noah was faithful, because Noah trusted when there was no earthly signs, because Noah trusted the waiting period, he trusted God when it took longer than expected. He worshiped God after, he gave God gratitude after, and God blessed him. Don't give up on your 370th day. So I hope to see you all in episode 3 as we navigate through another Bible character and their story who trusted through the fire. See you soon.